This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast, brought to you by Fan Battle Sports. As always, I got my amazing trio, starting off with my A1 since day one. Just like Drake, we started from the bottom, now we're here. Mr. Crenshaw, what's up, buddy?
What do you do? What do you do?
And our other rider guy, if you ever cross us, we're going to send our little pit bull, we're going to send him after you. We got Mr. BT.
What up, what up, what up?
And guys, if you follow anything AFC South, you know you've seen this man's work. He is on the Fox Sports website and also the new Fox Sports app. So make sure you check that out. We got Mr. Ben Arthur covering all AFC South. How you doing, Ben?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
How's your summer going? Pretty good?
It's good. It's crazy how quickly it's kind of passed by. I mean, training camp starting next week. I guess the Jets have already started theirs. But yeah, man, it's kind of crazy how it's all kind of, flashed by. I mean, you have like OTAs and veteran mini camp and stuff like that. And then you have like this several weeks before training camp starts. And then that just like that break in between, like it just kind of, goes by really quickly. So it's kind of crazy that I'm getting ready to cover another season, but here we are. I'm super excited. And so, yeah.
Can't get here any faster, I tell you, man. It seems like it's just slowly creeping by, especially for us Texans fans. Let's jump into some NFL news. Well, let's talk about the big one. The NFL owners get this man out of here. We want nothing to do with Dan Snyder, even after being fined, I think, like $11 million for holding a whole bunch of secrets and whatnot. Ben, I'll start with you. How are you excited that the Commanders are being sold, or what's this going to do to the NFL, culture-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a breath of fresh air. Obviously, I mean, the whole situation with Dan Snyder and the Commanders has been a headache for several years. We've seen the reports of kind of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. I saw a report, I think a couple of days ago, about kind of how Snyder had I think it was something about blackmail. It's just kind of a lot going on with that situation. And I know that he had kind of made a lot of enemies with other NFL owners. And so I think everyone in the NFL is just kind of ready to kind of turn the page, a fresh start, a new chapter. This is a very proud franchise that's kind of had this mess swirling for the last several years. And so I know a lot of people in the DC, DMV area and whatnot are kind of excited to kind of move forward, like not just those people, but just the NFL in general, just because of all the dysfunction that has kind of gone on with that franchise and the reports that have come out about that franchise. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be kind of a new day for the Commanders, and hopefully for their sake, they can kind of reclaim kind of the success that they've had in the past. And, they've had some iconic players there and, had some good teams. And hopefully this new ownership group led by Josh Harris, I believe he's involved with the 76ers and whatnot. And we know how they've kind of built themselves from what was kind of the process and whatnot, and kind of become a more relevant NBA franchise in the modern day. And so hopefully, for the Commanders' sake, they're they're kind of out of the dark ages now. It seems like so. So yeah, we'll kind of see what kind of unfolds with them moving forward.
Chris Hall, speak to me. What's your take?
I mean, like I say, I'm glad it's over. I mean, this guy been in the news since they want to change the name. It's been a mess. I mean, I don't understand why these rich guys feel like they're entitled. They could do what they want to do to women. It happened on the plane, right? Is that correct? It was on the plane.
Well, that was one of the reports.
One of the reports, yeah. I don't understand why they want to be entitled. You want to be freaky? Just have them sign the NDA. Do your thing, man. You got to do it just because I got money and everything. But I'm hoping that this new guy, bring them back because I like the Redskins, because of Doug, won Super Bowl and everything. So, but that's about it, man.
As many of our viewers are watching, they know my dad's passed away Saturday. He's a big Cowboys fan. So that the only bad thing about my dad passing is that I have to now cheer for the Cowboys every now and then. So that hurts me a little bit because I can't stand the Cowboys. BT, what's your take on this?
I think it's a blessing that he's out of the NFL. The dude, they actually fined him $60 million because he hid $11 million from the other teams. You could do a lot of things, and NFL owners will stick up for you, but if you take their money, they're coming down for you hard. And they basically slapped them around with the $60 million fine. He was found that he actually hid information from Mary Jo White, which was the investigator that has been investigating these things in the NFL. Yes, he committed sexual assault more than once. He actually took the passport. So he flew cheerleaders down, took their passports away so they couldn't leave when they wanted to. I mean, to me, that's kind of kidnapping. I mean, honestly, you could even make an argument for sexual trafficking at that point. So, I mean, the dude is just gross. Not to mention what he did to all the fans of the Washington Commanders. I mean, the name is horrible. He had the chance to get the Admirals. He could have gotten the Red Hogs. He just had to spend some money. We're talking like $2 to $5 million. We're not even talking a ton of money here. He could have gotten the Admirals for $2 million, and you got Commanders. What Washington fan wants to be called the Commanders? Because you know what I call them? Commies. And they will always be known as the Commies. They have to change his name. I know that was a message, but one of the things that this guy, Josh Harris, has to do is change the name. It's horrible. I hate it. I can't stand it.
I mean, you can go back to the Redskins. All I got to do is change the logo to a red potato. I mean, just saying. You're just saying. Well, let's move on. Ben, are you excited that the NFL is doing Hard Knocks with the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I mean, you had to do it with the Jets, right? I mean, because of everything that's kind of gone on with them and Aaron Rodgers coming in and just what that team is in itself, and we know kind of the young talent they have now, like with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and they have these kind of big personalities, and with Aaron Rodgers coming into that, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I know the Jets didn't want to do it, and I get it, right? Like that's kind of a distraction having cameras everywhere, and
so how do you feel that they said that it will not allow NFL films to record the cuts? What's your thoughts on that?
I didn't see what particular those limitations were. I didn't see those reports. But yeah, I mean, I just think, I mean, it makes sense for there to be some kind of limitations in terms of what they can see and whatnot, and what kind of viewers are going to see. But it's going to be fun, like from a consumer standpoint, right? From those of us watching, it's going to be entertaining. So I'm looking forward to it. And I guess the last time the Jets had it, 2010, I want to say, is when they last made the playoffs too. So maybe they make the playoffs again. I mean, they should, right? They're supposed to have Super Bowl aspirations. So I'm excited to watch it. I mean, really, from my vantage point, it doesn't really matter what the Jets think. I mean, from a viewer's standpoint, I want to see kind of what that internal dynamics, what that's going to look like, and how the team's gelling. So I'm excited to watch.
Well, real quick, before I jump to the other two guys, out of the whole AFC South, if they had to pick a team to do Hard Knocks from the AFC South, which one would you choose? Which one would you like to watch?
Well, I would say the Jaguars.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly the best team, but I don't know. I just really like the personalities on that team, and having been around them, interviewing some of the guys, and being around some of the coaches, I just think it would be really entertaining too. And I know that they're a very close team, and obviously having a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who's become what he's become, and kind of seeing how he's kind of seeing the game, and his relationship with Doug Peterson, and Josh Allen, one of their top edge guys. Like, he's one of the best quotes like in the NFL, like in my experience of guys I've talked to one-on-one. Like, he is as open as they come. And so I think he would be great in that setting too. Evan Ingram. I mean, I think it'd be really, really entertaining. I don't know how interesting the Titans would be, just because I know how Mike Vrabel runs the ship, and kind of Patriots-esque type culture. I just don't really see that being all that interesting. The Colts, I mean, you don't really know what you're getting there. I think Anthony Richardson is a really fascinating personality. So, I mean, that could be somewhat interesting. But off top, I mean, I'd have to say Jaguars. I wouldn't do a Hard Knocks off of any of the AFC South teams, but if you're asking me to choose one, the Jaguars would definitely be number one.
Yeah, especially with Dewey Winger, the stuff that comes out of his mouth. I mean, that can make a whole episode by itself, right? I mean, it's always the Jags, or just the crazy lines he comes up with. BT, I'll start with you. What do you think about the whole not recording the cuts?
I think that the NFL Films and the NFL will probably change the rules later on to require that the team that is doing Hard Knocks has to allow the cameras to be in there. I think it does change it dramatically for the viewer. You get an emotional attachment to some of these players when you watch, and you know it's pulling on heartstrings when you're seeing the before and after and during, the guys working out during camp, and then them sitting there and then being told why they're being cut. Some of them want to call their grandmother, their mother. Some of them, almost sit down and cry. I mean, this is TV that's made for drama. That's the whole reason why fans want to watch it. And if you take a big part of that away, which is a guy essentially losing his big shot, right? This is the biggest shot that you can have, is being in the NFL, and you're witnessing the guy losing that shot. That's as big of a moment as you can get on Hard Knocks, and they're taking that away. I think that's a big mistake. I think that the Jets are going to lead the NFL, or NFL Films particularly, to making new rules, and it's going to make more restrictions on other teams on sometimes there may be valid reasons why maybe a particular player shouldn't be filmed, right? But now I don't think they'll have any judgment. I think they'll change the rules, and it's going to be actually worse. I think the Jets made a big mistake.
Crenshaw, what about you, brother?
I'm not a Hard Knocks guy. I only watched the first one with the Cowboys, and of course I watched our Hard Knocks, but I'm not really a big Hard Knocks guy, so whatever's getting cut out, I'm not familiar with it. But I feel like the Jets was the right team, because you got Aaron Rodgers over there. I need to see. Maybe I'll look this year to see if Sauce Walker holds in practice like he holds in games and everything. That guy gets away with murder with that stuff right there. But I mean, it's a fascinating team. I like the coach. I like the fans. They're real passionate and everything. So I give it a look or two. But like I said, I'm not a Hard Knocks guy.
Right.
I'm not the quarterbacks guy, but y'all said the show was good. I started watching. I like that show. That's a pretty good show.
Oh yeah, you need to watch that like ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it. I'm on episode 6. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay, good.
All right. Well, other news: Vikings rookie Jordan Addison charged for speeding and reckless driving last night. I mean, he wasn't under the influence or anything, but you think this is going to be a big issue for the Vikings and Jordan Addison moving forward, or is it going to be a slap on the wrist?
Well, let's hope it doesn't become an issue, like for his sake, right? And in terms of, and by that I mean repeated incidents of doing stupid stuff, right? Because if it's just this kind of one thing, obviously a big mistake, but if he kind of gets his head on straight moving forward, I mean that's fine. But yeah, I mean it's kind of bonehead thing. I mean we've seen the reports that have come out about Georgia players. In terms of speeding, we know the unfortunate situation that happened with Henry Ruggs a couple years ago in Vegas, killing the young woman and her dog. And so we see so many examples of this kind of turning out badly. And for a guy who just got into the league, hasn't even gotten into his first training camp practice yet, and to have a situation like that is really unfortunate. But like I said, like, let's just hope that it's not kind of a pattern and it's just kind of a one-off mistake for his sake and for the Vikings' sake, because he is a talent. I think him and Justin Jefferson together could be a really cool tandem in Minnesota for that community to rally around. So that's what I have to say on that.
All right. BT?
I think this is not just a small thing, because the dude was doing 140 miles an hour. This is not some dude that just was speeding, 75 miles an hour in a 55, which is normal. 140 miles an hour. I mean, even if you see anything, you can't do anything. I mean, this is just because he wasn't drinking doesn't mean it's not serious. Landry Locker was saying that he should get suspended, and I completely 100% agree. This is reckless driving. This is a guy that needs to be taught a lesson before he does something worse, because this is definitely the start of a career where he's like, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm an NFL player. All I got was a fine. I make enough money. Who cares? No, he needs to actually pay the price. And for them, it's not, and for players, it's not just hitting their wallet, which is, being suspended. So you're losing the salary for those games, but it's also the fact that you're not on the field and you can't show what you can do. So you potentially could lose your job, meaning that you could be benched. And I think that needs to be a bigger deal. Going 140 miles an hour in a Lambo just because you bought a Lambo is fucking stupid. Like, this cannot happen. I think people are glossing over it.
All right. Crenshaw, what do you think?
Well, see, that's what happened when you get money. You do stupid shit, and like Ben said, you just saw what happened to Henry Ruggs. So why would you go out and do the same shit? I think he should be suspended. I think they should suspend his license as well. He don't need to be out there fucking driving. I don't think I ever drove 140 in my fucking life. So why the fuck you driving 140 in a 55, man? I'm lucky that he didn't hurt himself or somebody else. But I hope Minnesota really, really, make an example out of him, man. And I hope and JJ talk to him too. Like, hey, man, bro, chill out, bro. Like we don't need that, man. We don't need that, man. We don't need that type of distraction. Training camp starting. So instead of talking about practice, they're gonna talk about this fucking guy next week. So hopefully he learns from it. And that's all I gotta say.
All right. Well, moving on to another thing. Hendon Hooker placed on NFI. I know a lot of Titans fans want him, of course, because he is the Tennessee Volunteer standout. Ben, you think he makes the season before the season start, or it really doesn't matter because it's I can't even think his name. Jared Goff. There you go. Jared Goff's job to lose. What do you think?
I mean, it is. I mean, it's still Jared Goff's team, and Hendon Hooker was drafted in the third round, and everyone kind of knew that this rookie season would be somewhat of a red shirt type of year just because of the injury he's coming off of. So I don't think there's really at this point any sort of serious threat to Goff's security as the starter, and he played really well last year. I don't think enough people really talk about how much he was balling last season.
I mean, top 8 easily, right? I mean,
like with the season he had, and the Lions kind of becoming a darling of the league, he was a big reason for that. So I'm a big Hendon Hooker guy. I actually got to talk with him at his pro day, and has a good head on his shoulders, and I think he could be a really good pro, but it's gonna take some time, and it's not. I'm not really looking to see anything from him until like year 2, year 3, and we'll kind of see how the Lions QB situation evolves moving forward. But yeah, Goff is the guy for now, and Hendon Hooker, like right now, it's just about getting healthy, getting that knee right. So yeah.
All right, BT, I'll sit back with you. What do you think?
I think we all knew that this was going to happen. It'll be curious to see if he actually will be able to play in preseason or not. So that's really what I think people are going to be looking for. I don't think he's going to be playing in the regular season unless Goff gets hurt anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is also interesting because some Texans fans were actually thinking that we should have drafted Hendon Hooker and not taken any of the first-round quarterbacks. And I wonder what they're thinking now, knowing that he's on NFI. So it's non-football injury. If the question is, what does NFI stand for, if I remember correctly? Non-football injury, IR. So basically he had an ACL from college, and that's why he's on it. And it didn't come from, like, say, practice. But I think he's a talented guy. I think the biggest issue with him that I had was not the fact of his age, although that was an issue. My issue with him was the scheme. That's why I didn't like him, and that's why I think it's actually good that he sits for a year, regardless of whether it's injury or not. He was in a simplified system where it was a high-low system, so he never went through 3-4 reads. He went through 2 reads, and that was it. You can't do that in the NFL forever. You will have to go through certain reads. You won't have the type of scheme and the type of system that he had. So this is actually a good thing for him anyway. He needs to sit, learn, and actually understand how the NFL works.
Right. Crenshaw.
Yeah, Allen Hendon Hooker. I like the guy. He was a good quarterback. I mean, I think if he wasn't hurt, he would be pushing Goff for that starting spot. But overall, Goff will still win it. But it's good for him to sit, watch, and like Ben said, I think a couple years down the line that'll be his team. And I just like the guy, his whole demeanor, man. He's a Christian guy. I think him and his brother, didn't they do like a book? They had like a book or something together, him and his brother. They do a lot of Christian stuff. So I like that aspect about him. So I guess go Vols.
And I just wanted to kind of add something off of what VT was saying about the offense he was in, and that is very true. Those are very legitimate concerns, and he does kind of need to learn NFL schemes. But we have to remember at Virginia Tech, he did play in in a scheme that resembled more of a pro style, and then also he had a lot of responsibility at the line of scrimmage at UT. Like Josh Heupel put a lot on his plate, so even though he may have had kind of simplified reads, wasn't doing the full field reads, like he did have a lot on his plate, what you would expect for NFL quarterbacks to have, and he does have experience playing in different schemes. So, yeah, just wanted to kind of add that point.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. Well, real quick before we jump in Ruiz while we're here, Ben, we had a podcast yesterday. We already discussed it, so everybody knows our views. But what is your views on DeAndre Hopkins signing a 2-year deal with the Titans?
Yeah, I think it's huge for the Titans. I think it's really a needle mover for Tennessee in that I think they become a legitimate threat to Jacksonville in the division. I think the Jaguars are still the top team, but I think D-Hop elevates the Titans enough, makes their offense competent enough that the Titans as a whole are kind of more of a threat to Jacksonville. The wide receiver room was kind of a topic of discussion this whole offseason for those in the Titans community. And I know in terms of the Texans community, there's kind of been talk about that wide receiver room maybe not being as good too. But with the Titans, it was really Treylon Burks, who only played 10, 11 games. And then kind of everyone else, a lot of unproven talent, a lot of undrafted talent, a lot of guys who haven't really done anything. And they didn't draft a receiver until the 7th round. So there were a lot of people upset about that. And so to get a guy of DeAndre Hopkins' caliber to pair with Treylon Burks, who should be much better in year 2, I think that's a really strong receiver tandem, assuming Burks takes those steps and kind of stays healthy. You have those two, and you have a really good rising tight end in Chigakonkwo. You obviously have Derrick Henry in the backfield. They have a nice little group of skill guys to work with that I think gives it makes this offense respectable enough. And this is a Titans defense that is still very strong. You take those two factors together, and I think Mike Vrabel is a top 5 coach in the league in terms of maximizing whatever the heck he has on the field. Like, we've seen him with some bad rosters in terms of talent and being able to drag those teams to winning records. And so I really like their chances in terms of threatening the Jags in the AFC South. I think they're competitive. Like I said, I think the Jags are still the top team, but I think the Titans will give them a run for their money, and I would not be surprised to see them, get 9 wins, possibly even 10. I truly believe that.
All right. Well, guys, let's jump into why we are here.
You ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 stick, you can get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride.
Well, Ben, last night we talked to trainer Alexander Weber, and he said that Jacoby Francis is the one who impressed him much. We've been hearing his name all offseason. Is this guy, is he on your radar for impressing you? If not, who's one guy that has impressed you so far this offseason?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say, I didn't get to hit the Texans during the offseason workout, so I'm not going to get to see them until training camp. So I didn't see what Jacoby Francis was able to do, and I'm sure he's going to have a really good chance this year in terms of offering depth in the secondary. But I'm really high on Tank Dell, honestly, and I know he's a guy that people talk about a lot, but you look at this wide receiver room, and kind of like what I was saying earlier in terms of the D-Hop talk, the Texans also have a wide receiver room that you don't really look at it as a threat, right? Like, you don't really know what you have left in Robert Woods. John Mechie is coming off of a year he had leukemia, and so you're not really sure what you're going to get from him. And so whatever Tank Dell can give the Texans is going to be huge, and we know he's a shifty guy in terms of getting in and out of breaks. He's definitely smaller, but I really like his ability to get open and create separation, and I think he's going to be a favorite target for CJ Stroud and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has to do, and the opportunity is going to be there, like I said, just because of the state of that receiver room. So I was a big fan of Tank Dell in the pre-draft process, and seeing him go to Houston, a place he played in college, is cool to see as well. So I would say Tank Dell is probably number 1 on my list in terms of guys I really want to see.
Well, hopefully he can be like Hakeem was to the Rockets and just be amazing from Houston to Houston. BT, what's your thoughts?
So I just want to, first, for anyone who didn't watch the show yesterday, Alexander Weber is Laramie Tunsil's brother, but he's also a certified professional trainer and a nutritionist, and he works with many Texans players, including Christian Harris, obviously Laramie Tunsil, so many players. And one of the players that he was talking about was Jacoby Francis. Jacoby Francis was an undrafted free agent. He's 5'11", 193 pounds. He was signed from the University of Memphis in 2022. So those are like the quick facts about him. Now, we have heard reports about him that he's made plays. In the beginning of camp, Steven Nelson was not showing up. There right now, in case people are unaware, Steven Nelson recently changed his management to David Mulligetta, and he's been trying to get a new contract. And he's been tweeting all sorts of weird stuff that I'm not going to get into right now for weeks. And there is some sort of question whether or not he's going to report to camp. And the reason why Jacoby Francis is an important name to remember is that if Steven Nelson does not find himself on this roster, meaning that we trade him or we release him because of his attitude or because he requested or whatever reason, that Jacoby Francis may have that opportunity to prove himself very, very quickly. Last year, he played in several games, but he only played on special teams, and he only had like one tackle. So he really didn't do anything last year for the Texans. But according to Alexander Weber, and the same thing what he said, he told Stingley is, you last year, you just kind of be a sponge, learn everything. The second year is when you can make an impact. And so if Steven Nelson is not in the squad, we could see Jacoby Francis out there as an outside corner. So it's just a name to remember. I do think that he's going to compete with Shaquille Griffin and others. I think, if Steven Nelson goes, even though Desmond King works better on the inside, they could, put Desmond King there. So I think that it's just a name that if Steven Nelson's gone, and if you're worried about who's going to replace him, Jacoby Francis very well may be that guy, and he's young. So it's not like even if Steven Nelson stays here, he's gone after this year. So Jacoby Francis, he's young, he's going to be here, and if he's good, he'll be here for a while.
So BT made a good point, Crenshaw, if Nelson's gone, but Stingley so far in his NFL career, in his college career, he does have the injury bug. So we could see him taking over for Stingley. Crenshaw, what's your thoughts? We know you hate Stingley, so I mean.
No. Before I say that, I'm gonna ask Ben a question. So, if the Texans would have signed D-Hop, how would you review this team and this wide receiver group?
If the Texans signed D-Hop,
yes.
That's interesting because they have Robert Woods too, and then you have two kind of receiver. What Robert Woods is like 30. You have two
30-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah, 2 30-year-old receivers who are supposed to be your top guys. I wouldn't view it, honestly, as optimistically as I look at the Titans. He would certainly make them a lot better, and the return of Houston, that would be great and all. But, it would be much better. D-Hop, I think, still has a lot left in the tank, and we talked about Tank Dell and whatnot. But I think just in terms of where the Titans are at and what they needed, he moves the needle enough for them to compete with Jacksonville. Like with the Texans, like they're I don't know what you guys think, but like from my vantage point, like they're not going to compete for the division this year. Maybe 2024, like they have a lot of good young talent. But I just don't see it in this upcoming season. And so that's why I think it made more sense for him to go to kind of Tennessee than to come back to Houston because of how he moves the needle. And Tennessee is now in a position where they're competitive for a playoff spot. And if D-Hop went back to Houston, I still wouldn't say that they're a playoff team. And so that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Okay. Let me just say, because I mean, most people know how I feel about this, but I just I had to rebut this. So I actually do not find Tennessee to be that great right now. I think their line is terrible. And so when, yes, D-Hop went to Tennessee, but that line didn't get any better. And they lost their right tackle, who was really the only decent piece on that line. Dillard is basically, in my opinion, trash. I mean, he's not a starter left tackle, in my opinion. So D-Hop is a good talent. Don't get me wrong. He's a great talent. I'm wearing his freaking jersey, and I got another jersey over there. Love D-Hop. But I don't think that line is going to allow him to get anything. I mean, the line was terrible last year, and it didn't get better this year. I think if D-Hop came to Houston, I'm not saying that we would be a playoff team, but I think our line would be better. I mean, we surely invested a hell of a lot in our line. $66 million more than any other NFL team. So we should have a top 10 line. So I would think that D-Hop would actually get more production if he came to Houston than Tennessee. I said yesterday that I think he would get right around like 700 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns in Tennessee. That's where I think he's going to be capped at, really. I think if he came to Houston, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Not saying that we were a playoff team, but he would get his 1,000 yards and probably 7 TDs or so. So better than Tennessee. But Tennessee, I understand that, you have Derrick Henry, but he's aging. He's almost 30 years old. You've got Ryan Tannehill, but he's 35. You got a line that destroyed Ryan Tannehill last year, and you got a line that help lead to the most fumbles from a running back in the league with Derrick Henry. So I'm not that high on the Titans, but I do think if Hopkins came to Houston, we would have been a better team.
Yeah, I mean, I'll since we're talking about, I'll kind of piggyback on BT. It all depends on the Ryan Tannehill you get, right? Like if you get the healthy and consistent Tannehill, then I agree with Ben. I think he does move the needle a little bit. But if you get the Ryan Tannehill that's inconsistent and still playing off that injury, I think it's going to be a rough year for the Titans. It all depends on Mr. Ryan Tannehill. Well, BT, I'm glad you were talking about the line. Madden ratings came out for the left tackles, and Larry Tunsil rated the fourth best tackle with a 95. I mean, there's a sleeper on that boy. Ben, what do you think? You think that's about right, or should you be higher?
Yeah, no, I think that's about right. I mean, I'd say anywhere from like top 3 to top 5 is where Tunsil is at. Phenomenal left tackle. I mean, I'd still put guys like Trent Williams ahead of him, and Lane Johnson. Those are probably the two guys I would definitively put ahead of him. I'm trying to think of who else. Who is the third guy rated ahead of him?
I think Nick Martin. Yeah,
Nick Martin. Okay. Yeah, I think for me, I mean, at least Lane and Trent would I'd probably put above Laramie Tunsil, but that's about right. I mean, regardless, he's elite, right? He's well deserving of that bag he got this offseason to make him the highest paid O-lineman ever. He's going to be great for CJ Stroud, like to have a left caliber as a rookie, like
right. That's what you need, right? Yeah.
But I'd say that's about right.
And he also, I don't know if you saw this, but Tunsil also went on Adam Schefter's podcast and he said, "Don't sleep on us, man. We got some talent on the team." What do you think? Do you think people are sleeping on us, or it's about right?
Yeah, no, I do. And I think I kind of touched on it a little bit, but
right.
Houston does have a lot of young talent. And I actually just did like a story ranking like the AFC South teams by position group. And the Jags obviously have the most kind of wins per position, but I think the Texans may have been second or tied with the Titans. I mean, because their secondary, I think, could be elite. Like,
could probably be the best in the division, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, if Stingley can stay on the field and he kind of makes those steps, and like BT was saying earlier, Steven Nelson's situation is kind of fluid, but yeah, that could be such a good unit. Jalen Petrie, I think, is an all-pro talent. Getting Jimmy Ward from San Francisco, coming with D'Amico Ryans from the Bay to Houston is huge. When you look at the advanced numbers, like the the passer rating allowed when targeted, and they're really high up there. And I think they allowed. They're like in the top 5 in like passing touchdowns allowed. Like they're you look at those numbers, like they're up there. And I think if Stingley takes that step and is healthy, like this is already the best secondary in my opinion in the division. But if Stingley is healthy, I think really the sky's the limit.
All right, Crenshaw, what do you think about everything Tunsil's?
Well, first, they are the best secondary in this division because of Steven Nelson.
Oh, come on. What the F?
Man, Steven Nelson is good, man. He just want to get paid, man. Pay the man. Pay the man.
Mid.
No, he's good, man. But no, I think Tonsils are well deserved. They do sleep on him. I mean, the guy should have been an All-Pro last year. It wasn't an All-Pro. I'm glad he's still here. I'm glad that there's no holdouts because I need somebody to protect my quarterback and everything. Like BT said, we spent a lot of money on the offensive line. We better be fuck a top 10. We need to be top 8 at least, man, because that's the way this team is going to roll. If the line's good, CJ is going to be good. The running back's going to be good. The offense is going to flow. Give him time to find his reads because he's going to need time since our wide receivers are mid, as you say, VT. But like I said, I just hope Tunsil get his due. I hope he get his due. I hope he get his All Pro. And, put us on the map, man. The last 3 years, man, it's like Houston. That's in Texas. I'm tired of hearing that shit right there, man.
All right, VT.
So I think that last year he was snubbed. I think he had an all-pro year last year, and the only reason, honestly, is because he's playing for the Texans. I said similar things about Jalen Petrie. Petrie and Tunsil were the two best players on this team. I love Dameon Pierce, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have a 1,500-yard season or something, so he's not going to be at that level yet. But Petrie and Tunsil, stars all the freaking way. I just want to know what you have to do necessarily to get like an 88, 98, because he gave up 1 sack, not a lot of pressures. He had some false starts, but he was playing with the worst center in football. So I guess they're not his. It's even though it's not his fault, it gets attributed to him. But I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't be a 99 this year. We got Juice Scruggs. He should be much better than Scott Quisenberry. He better be. And hopefully Kenyon Green is healthy. And so you're right, Crenshaw. Like, we should be not just top 10, we should be better. We're definitely spending the money for it. And we're probably going to extend Tytus Howard. So that's coming up soon. So, yeah, our line should be at least a top 10. And Tunsil, come on, man. I hope you have a great year and you get an All-Pro and you get Madden 99 next year. We'll pop in bottles.
All right. Then camp starts next week. 3 things you want to see for the Texans. What are they, sir? You're on the clock.
3 things I want to see from the Texans.
Yeah, we don't care about the Titans.
How dare you confuse them?
That's habit, man. That's habit. From the Texans, I think number 1, just CJ Stroud just really take hold of the QB position. Like, I can't help but think about. I think you guys saw it. Like, with the way in Carolina they were talking about Bryce Young, like how we just almost immediately like really took hold of that job over Andy Dalton. And right now, or in the offseason program, D'Amico Ryans was still kind of saying, oh, it's kind of a competition with Davis Mills and CJ is coming along. But I didn't hear those words of those definitive words of, yeah, like he's the guy. And I want to start hearing those words. I want to see CJ kind of take those steps to become the undisputed guy. I mean, he's obviously the future, right? And he's going to play. But to kind of hear that language from the coaching staff and from the players that CJ is our guy, I think that would probably be number 1 for the Texans. Number 2, caught
you off guard, didn't we?
Yeah, no. I mean, the defense, I don't know how much we're going to really see, like with the run defense in particular in the practice setting. I mean, that's probably going to be more in like preseason and getting into the regular season. But I want to see D'Amico Ryans really work that magic in terms of we all know how bad the Texans were, especially against the run last season, and just seeing those guys up front, like Will Anderson, bringing him in, Sheldon Rankins, Christian Harris taking a step, all those guys. I want to see those guys flying around like in the trenches. I want to see them making plays, making life hell for the offense. Really challenging Stroud and the O-line and all those guys. That's what I really want to see. And that's partly why D'Amico Ryans is here, because of his resume with the 49ers and what he did. And so I would say that's number 2, just in terms of the run defense and seeing those front 7 guys take a step. And I think number 3, I think VT, Crenshaw, you guys kind of touched on it, but the O-line. And again, this is probably a thing where we won't really see anything till the preseason and into the regular season, but they're dedicating a lot of money, a lot of cash, a lot of cap space for this O-line to be good, for Dameon Pierce, for CJ Stroud, for the offense to get into its plays.
For the future, right.
Yeah, for Stroud to have time. It's going to help his development. It's going to help Pierce, who's supposed to take pressure off of CJ. If he has those holes with the line blocking well up front, I need to see those guys, play to the money, because this was the part of the Colts' downfall last season. They had the highest paid offensive line in terms of cash and cap space, cap dollars, and they allowed 60 sacks, second most in the league. Matt Ryan looked lost, like he didn't have any time for anything. We all know how they kind of imploded. The O-line is kind of key to everything, and we have another case here where the Texans, another team in the division, have committed a lot of money up front, and with a young quarterback coming in, the number 2 overall pick, the guy who you need to be your franchise guy, he needs to have time to kind of get into plays and to make his reads, and for Dameon Pierce to be able to help him in terms of taking pressure off him. So the O-line, I would say, is number 3.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, before I see you, the Crenshaw and BT, I'll do mine real quick. I would agree with Ben. That's be number 1. CJ Stroud, right? He's number 1. Like, that's everybody. You gotta make sure he's the guy. Number 2, I want to see who's going to stand out to be the number 1 guy in receiver. Either that's Robert Woods, Nico Collins, maybe a Tank Dell or Mechie. Any one of those guys need to come out and take that position. And second off, the defensive line, that front 7 was just god awful. Hopefully they turn around. Benny kind of talked about the run tackling. We got to definitely improve that. So those are my top 3. Crenshaw, bust out those flaming hot Cheetos. What's yours, bro?
Well, of course, number 1 is CJ. I got it because I don't want to see the other 2 guys. I don't care about the other 2 guys. CJ. And then offensive line, mainly the Juice Man and Kenyon fucking Green. Those are 2 guys I mainly want to see. And number 3, I'm gonna go with a coach. I need to see our defensive coordinator. I need to see is he calling plays, what he's doing with those guys, because what he does to that defensive line is going to help out the whole damn team. If we could go from the worst rush defense to the middle of the pack, that's right there. Win us 2 or 3 more games right there. So those are my top 3 right there, and I'm going to keep a real good eye on that right there.
Hey, if not, win us a couple games, keep us in games, right? That's what we need.
I mean, shit, we was in the games.
We were in those games, yeah.
We just the offense was just shitty,
Yeah.
What, 15 points a game? So that's why we need that O-line.
All right, BT.
So what I want to see, and first of all, I'm not even going to talk about CJ Stroud because I think it's a foregone conclusion that he is going to be QB1 when we go against Baltimore. So I'm fine with however they want to play this out. If they think that CJ will do better if he is given a task of beating out Mills, it's going to happen. It's just, let it go. I know that's going to happen. That's not even my question. So the first question is, who is playing on the O-line? Is it going to be Green? Is it Patterson? Is it Michael Dietrich? Who is going to be at guard at that position? At the center position, it's got to be Scruggs. But I want to know who is taking snaps more often, because Quesenberry was out there taking snaps with the ones. That definitely cannot happen. So the first question is the O-line. As you said, Ben, the O-line is the key to the entire offense. You can't have an offense without the O-line. Last year, as bad as Davis Mills was, the O-line was disgusting. It was like 26th overall in the league, and the interior O-line was just garbage. So that has to be fixed. In order to know if it's fixed, we have to see Kenyon Green healthy and actually on the field. And right now, he's been recovering from a knee injury, a shoulder injury, and last year he had a concussion too. So he hasn't been healthy. So that's number 1. Who is on the O-line? Number 2, I want to see what's going on with Steven Nelson. Is he reporting to camp? If he's not reporting to camp, who's taking that spot? Is it Jacoby Francis? Is it Shaquille Griffin? I think we will be a top. Yes, I do hate Scott Quesenberry. He's my arch nemesis. The only one I hate more are the Titans. The Titans are my second nemesis, but number 1 is Scott Quesenberry.
And number 3 is Kenyon Green. Go ahead.
No, it's not Kenyon Green. So I think we have a top 5 secondary in the league, not just great in the division. I think that's the type of talent that we have with Stingley, Petrie, and yeah, if Nelson wants to stay, if he doesn't, get him the hell out and have Jacoby there or put King on the outside. But I want to know who's going to be there. That's critical. And then what I want to know on defense is who is at the mic. Is it Kirko? Because I don't want to see Christian Kurski there. Is it going to be Henry To'oTo'o? Is it going to be Denzel Perryman? Who is at the mic is going to be very, very important to me. Because if Kurski's out there, well, there goes any coverage. We're just basically not going to have any great defense if Kirko's out there. So my real thing is who is playing at those positions, because we'll find out how they play in preseason and so forth. But I want to know who is actually playing at those positions.
All right, Ben, before I sign this off.
If it is Kirko, you're not going to kill yourself, right?
No, but I'm going to slap some dudes at NRG. I'll tell you that.
Just make it show.
Nick Casario is going to get a little bit of spanking. Pause.
Big pause. Ben, before we sign off, is there any rebuttals or comments to me, VTs, and Crenshaw's three things we need to see?
No, I think between the four of us, we kind of hit everything of what's important. CJ, the O-line, like Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green is a big part of this, right? First round pick last year, had a bad year. Got injured in training camp, or it wasn't really fully. He missed a lot of time, a valuable time for reps, and then this year has missed the entire offseason program. And so him taking a step is going to be really important for the O-line, because I mean, you're set at left tackle with Tunsil. Juice Scruggs, as you guys have said, should be the center as the second round pick. Tytus Howard is a good right tackle. Shaq Mason, I think, really improves their run game in particular. And
he doesn't have a defensive coordinator calling plays, so that should help him.
Yeah. So I think Kenyon Green is the X factor on the O-line. I mean, I think, I'll kind of leave it at that. But I think we kind of hit everything.
All right. Well, in the wise words of my boy Crenshaw, this is the worst part because it's the end. Ben, we know we can find you on FoxSports.com and the new Fox Sports app. Tell us where we can find you on social media and all the great things you have coming so we can keep an eye out.
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for having me. You can find me on Twitter at Ben Y. Arthur, like just one word. And same handle on Instagram as well. And on Threads too. I mean, I guess that's something we're doing now. So I'm on Thread, same handle, Ben Y. Arthur, one word. And yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, we appreciate you coming on, Ben. It's always an honor. We need to get you on here during the season so we can backtrack and see the progress of these guys. BT, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at Brown Chubby Bear on Twitter. I'm also on Threads. So, yes, that is a thing that we're doing. Hopefully, Threads actually takes off. It's been kind of weak the last couple of days, but that's another story. So, yeah, you can find me at Brown Chubby Bear. I'm on Twitter Spaces a lot. There's bits of dead time, but I'm back on Spaces, so come join me. We love arguing, and I love to argue with you. You can find my articles at Fan Battle Sports, and you can find the audio podcast on every single channel. If you're only watching us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, you're missing the podcast that I do with Leo, which is Texans Fan Battle After Hours. And this last episode, we talked about running backs. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins. And it's basically two guys with very different views that just ramble on for an hour straight. But it's a pretty decent listen. So check it out.
Guys, don't get that confused with our with OnlyFans, because it's not OnlyFans. All right. Now, speaking of OnlyFans, Crenshaw, tell us where we can find you at.
You can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw. I'm not on Threads, but like I told Ben earlier, I love his Threads. The boy got the Crenshaw shirt. Show the viewers, please. Show the viewers. Represent. I love it.
All right, guys. You can find me at A1 Day One Texans. And you find this podcast, like BT said, on every major platform and every social media link, Threads, everywhere, all except OnlyFans. You cannot find us on OnlyFans. Thank God.
Not yet,
so-
not yet. Because they
Right, not yet.
When we start
they make-
memberships,
they make
maybe you
good
will.
money.
Though.
Yeah, they make good money on OnlyFans.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if that's what gets us out of here, you know. who
Coming
knows?
soon. Coming soon.
But guys, you have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Training camp next Wednesday.
We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you want to score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's our profession. No complaining, just training. You see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows. We get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
When you bake, when you bake,